Hello friends, a very good morning to you all. I am Manmath. Today we will be dealing with the issues pertaining to India-China relations, how the relations has evolved over a period of time. We will discuss all these issues in details. And and one disclaimer is, whenever I say that the political party, it doesn't necessarily mean the present regime. It means political parties in general. Keep this in mind while watching this lecture. And second thing is, the lecture is conducted on January 17th. Today is Saturday 2026. So some factual information in later period of time may change. So please make this in count. You have to take into account these changes after some period of time, or fundamentals of this lecture will be same, but some factual information after the period of time will be different. So you have to take this into cognizance. Thank you. And we will today discuss the India-China relations. India-China, these are the emerging Asian giants. India, in case of population, if we compare, India is the most populous country of the world. Rank is first. China rank is second. China is second most populous country. If we compare the percentage of population in world's population, India population is 17% approximately, and China also 17% approximately. It counts to 34% in total. So 33% of the world population is occupied by these two nations only. It means that every 1/3 person on this planet Earth belongs to either India or China. So demography is huge, and in case of economic strength, we will take this. In case of economy, this is China. Here is China. China is number one, first. Second is USA, and India stands at number 3. These are the figures in PPP terms, purchasing power parity terms. So China is the world's largest economy in PPP terms. So India is third largest economy. So demography is very high. Economically, these countries are very robust. So of course there are clashes between these two countries for the leadership in Asia in general and in the world in particular. So these are the issues, and we will take about this. And phases of the India-China relations are there. This is the first phase, 1950 to 1962, and this is the formative phase. It began on the ideology of idealism, Asian solidarity, friendship, and ended in armed conflict in 1962. Many people say that 1962 was a war, but the precise term for it can be border conflict, will be the precise term, making it watershed in India's foreign policy. Phases of idealism and friendship. India recognized People's Republic of China in 1950. We will first of all say that China had a revolution in 1949, which is called a Chinese Revolution. It was under the leadership of Mr. Mao Zedong, the then premier of China. And one major distinction of this Chinese revolution vis-a-vis the Russian Revolution is that Chinese Revolution was more occupied by the peasantry class. Peasantry means farming community. And this Bolshevik Revolution, which happened in 1917, which is also called Russian Revolution, it was dominated or mainly occupied by the working class. So this is the major distinction between these two revolutions. And in 1949, communist China People's Republic of China (PRC) came into existence, and it was a communist China. And after that, India was the first country in the world to recognize the People's Republic of China in 1950. India supported China's claim over Tibet at international forums, and emphasis on Asian unity, leadership of newly decolonized nations, convergence on anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, opposition to Western dominance. When the in after 1950, when India got independence in 1947, after that many countries of the Asia and Africa got decolonized. So emphasis was more on anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism, because this imperialist power of UK and many of the European powers, the policies of this imperialist state were very exploitative, and they were seeing the colonies of the third world country in the form of raw material and in the form of the suppliers of labor class. All these things were happening. So our stance along with all the decolonized nation was anti-imperialist and anti-colonialism. So again, Panchashil, high point of relation. Panchashil agreement was signed in 1954 during talks on Tibet. Five principles of Panchashil are very important. In many examinations, these principles are directly asked. It may be UPSC prelims or state PCS prelims or any other competitive examination where GS is the area of the subject. Then these are very important. Mutual respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference, equality and mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. These are the five important points regarding this Panchashil agreement. And sovereignty. Sovereignty means, in the simplest of terms, sovereignty means that a country or a nation state should be able to take its own decision without the pressure or without the impact of other nations or other party or other entity. So sovereignty is the total freedom to make our individual decisions of the country. No power can question the decisions or authority of the state. This is called sovereignty. And when nation states were created, sovereignty was one of the fundamental principles of the foundation of the nation state. So sovereignty is very important, and I can say that after in today's world, in practicality, this sovereignty concept has got eroded with the passage of time, because we have multilateral institutions like United Nations, we have World Bank, IMF, also multilateral institutions like SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, ASEAN, SAARC, all these organizations and their functioning. So the sovereignty of the nation state is somehow got eroded. Perfect sovereignty is not possible in today's world. And the popular narrative at that time was Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. Panchashil became normative basis for India's foreign policy. Afro-Asian solidarity. Bandung Conference. Bandung Conference was the conference by NAM countries. NAM were the countries non-alignment movement. Very important part at that time. I will tell you briefly about this NAM movement. Means before this, the world was divided into two blocks. One was USA, another was USSR. Means after the Second World War, the world was divided into two of these major blocks, that is USA and USSR. USA, the ideology of USA was capitalism, and this USSR, it was socialism, and USA, it was capitalism. So mainly after 1950s or 1940s, many of the countries of the third world got decolonized. So India was one among it. So India felt that if we can be a part of either of these blocks, that is capitalist bloc or the socialist bloc, there may be the possibility that we could be the new colony of one of these blocks. So in order to dismantle this fear, India chose the part of third world countries. Third world means India didn't be a part of any of these blocks. So it was the non-alignment movement, where many of the peoples get confused with NAM with neutrality, but it is not so. Non-alignment movement simply means we are not aligned to any of your blocks. That's all. So Bandung Conference happened in 1955, symbolized cooperation. Both projected themselves leaders of the third world, and in NAM at that time, Nehru was our honorable Prime Minister, first Prime Minister. He was the proponent of NAM at that time. Along with Nehru, the countries like Indonesia, Egypt, they also had aligned with this non-alignment movement, and they were also instrumental in the propagation of ideas of NAM. So Bandung Conference happened, both projected themselves as leaders of the third world. China viewed as partner, not a rival. Then emergence of strategic differences 1955 to 1958. China consolidated control over Tibet. Construction of Aksai Chin, Xinjiang, Tibet road, border dispute surfaced. Okay, western sector Aksai Chin, eastern sector McMahon line. India lacked clear border demarcation, military preparedness. This is phase of tension. 1959 to 1961, it was the phase of tension, because one of the reasons for the tension was the issue of Tibet. Actually, Tibet was a sandwiched country between India and China. So Britishers at that time felt that there should be a sandwich state so that there will not be direct confrontation between these two nations. So it was sandwich state, but China had asserted claim on this territory. 1959 Tibet uprising occurred, and Dalai Lama granted asylum in India. Dalai Lama, the holy saint, is very much revered in Indian land as well, and he was granted asylum in India due to that uprising. And this activity of India was not welcomed by China. China felt that India is making the intrusion in the internal issues of China. So that was also a point of tension between these two nations at that time. Border clashes at Longju Kongka Pass. China accused India of interference in internal affairs. India adopted forward policy at that time. Let me explain one thing. Forward policy of India at that time. This is the border. Here it is our beautiful country India, and it is China. This is the border. Forward policy means our troops will move some point ahead of border in China, then again they will come gradually, they will go into the territory of China. But this move of India was not welcomed by China, and border clashes happened, and that was resulted into Sino-Indian War in 1962. Chinese advances were in eastern sector, western sector especially in Aksai Chin, and eastern sector especially in Arunachal Pradesh. China declared unilateral ceasefire. At that time also Chinese military were robust vis-a-vis India's army. So India had to have defeat at that time, end of idealistic phase of permanently. So reasons for the failure of first phase: unilateral unresolved border dispute, China's idealism versus India's idealism versus China's realism. I want to tell one thing here. What is idealism and realism? Idealism means India, China, these we are bhai bhai, we are brothers, and brotherhood shall be maintained, and country should believe in rule of law. All these things come in idealism. And realism means that the nation state have to acquire power, because we don't know that what the situation will be in future. And realism policy says that we should be self-reliant, that our military should be self-sufficient, we should have all resources, military preparedness, defense, robustness, all these things should be taken into account in realism. Realism says that in the occasion of adversity, in the case of conflict, no country will come to help India. So India has to do for itself. It has to grow. It has to cultivate a good military. So all these things come in realism. Honorable National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval, he also is a proponent of realism. We don't have to be very idealistic, and we should cultivate power, and India has to grow in defense capabilities. Tibet as strategic buffer lost, military and infrastructural asymmetry, diplomatic miscalculations, misperceptions. Second phase from 1962 to, we can say, 2025, means present era. The period 1962 to 2025 marks the post-war phase of India-China relations, characterized by strategic mistrust after 1962 war, gradually normalizations followed by competitive coexistence and confrontation, especially after 2020. Conceptual analysis phase of hostility, Sino-Indian War, shattered diplomatic trust. It was so the relations were so low that all the officials of the state came back to their respective countries, and ambassadors were withdrawn from each other. China aligned closely with Pakistan. Of course, China and Pakistan are the all-weather friends. When we see the Chanakya's Saptanga theory or Chanakya's theory, country's immediate neighbor is his natural enemy, and enemy's enemy is friend. By this theory also, China and Pakistan are all-weather friends. It is imperative for China, to have good friendship with Pakistan. Of course, they have good relationship. India recalibrated foreign policy, strategic realism over idealism, military modernization. 1967 clashes at Nathula and Chola, India helped gradual militarily. Phase of cautious normalization. 1976 diplomatic relations restored at ambassador level. Yes, after some period of time there were normalizations, and in 1988, when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi has gone to China for dialogues, debate, communication, discussion, gradual thaw without resolving core dispute, China focused on internal reforms. Deng Xiaoping, this is very important thing in the history of China. Deng Xiaoping was one of the important premiers of China, and he led China to new economic heights. He has liberalized Chinese economy in 1978, opened up the economy. Whichever the growth we see in today China, the genesis of this growth goes to the reforms done by Mr. Deng Xiaoping in 1978. India did this reform in late era vis-a-vis China. India gone for these LPG reforms in 1991. So we were a little late in liberalizing our economy. So China did it earlier, and these reforms are also called as Washington Consensus. Means deregulation of industry, opening up of new private players. Means we were moving from socialism towards the capitalism. Border remained tense but largely peaceful. Phase of engagement and confidence building. 1988 to 2023. Rajiv Gandhi's visit to China in 1988. It is said to be the turning point in the relations with India-China. Dealing border dispute from overall relations, maintain peace along LAC. You should have to understand these two things, LAC and LOC. LOC, line of control. LAC is the line of actual control. LAC is the area, border area between India and China. Line of control, LOC, is the border area between India and Pakistan. So please be aware about these distinctions. Key agreement 1993 peace tranquility along LAC, military CBMs, confidence building measures, political parameter agreement, expansion of trade, cultural exchanges, military cooperation, BRICS SCO, border largely stable despite unresolved dispute, phase of assertive China and strategic competition. This Mr. Xi Jinping came in power, and he has given one of the famous speeches. In that speech, he says that China wants to regain its own old glory. China wants to have the leadership. China will be doing great work in economy. All these things he has given. Also the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, which we see today, it is the brainchild of Mr. Xi Jinping. Border incidences happened in Demsang, Chumar, Doklam. Informal summits happened in Wuhan, Mamallapuram. Informal summits. Many people will be questioning that what these informal summits are. Informal summits are the summits where there is no pre-scheduled blueprint or pre-scheduled area of discussions. All these things are not available in informal summit. Means the leaders of the state will come and sit, will have informal dialogue, like personal to personal dialogue, without any agenda, manifesto. They will come, sit and discuss. So this will have what is the benefit of this? This benefit will be they will have leader to leader bonding, and they will have personal relation. All this thing will happen, and this thing will in turn lead to good relations between these countries. So, and these are the one of the excellent areas of dialogue between these two countries. But one major thing is, don't confuse this informal dialogue with track to diplomacy. So track to diplomacy actually is the diplomacy where the debates, engagement is between the private arm of the country, like civil society, private players will engage in discussions, not the government. So when the government is in the discussion with the other nation state, it is called track 1 diplomacy. When the private sector, civil society, they come and engage with each other, then it is called track 2 level of diplomacy. But informal summit, they are conducted between the states, but agenda is not set, so it is called informal summit. So don't get confused between these two areas of cooperation. So it's very important. Phases of confrontation, structural rivalry, 2025, Galwan Valley clash which happened in 2020, first fatalities since 1967, massive troop deployment along LAC, Ladakh sector, partial disengagement but no full de-escalation. India's response: when China is doing all these things, India is going for infrastructural building at the border areas. We are building roads, bridges, dam, airfield, all these things India is taking steps. Honorable Prime Minister, current Prime Minister is very serious about all these issues, and he is pushing for great infrastructural development along the border. Economic measures, also app bans, means after this border clashes, India has gone for banning the apps which are there. Chinese apps were used in Indian area, so all selectively apps were banned by Indian regime. FDI scrutiny, means if private sector from China is investing in India, then there will be scrutiny by our government official. So these were the steps taken by India. Also, in case of strategic partnership, we are going for Quad, Indo-Pacific. Quad is an initiative between India, USA, Japan, Australia. So these countries wants to come together forward to tackle the rise of China, because Chinese rise has never been very peaceful. China doesn't believe in the rule of law. China doesn't believe in the communication, debates, all these things China doesn't believe. China continues, in retaliation to India, China continues to build infrastructure along the border, renaming places in Arunachal Pradesh, pressure through military posturing. Key structural drivers 1962 to 2025, unresolved border dispute. This is one of the major area of tension between these two nations. Power asymmetry, China's rapid rise. I already told you that China stands number one in economy in case of PPP terms, whereas India is at the number third in PPP terms. Middle it is USA. So China, after 1978 reform, China has grown very rapidly in short period of time. One of the reason for the rise of China, or the Chinese rapid rise, is due to its very nature of communism. Means in communism, actually what is communism? Many people will be saying, what is the difference between communism and socialism? Socialism means when a state have state ownership of resources, means mode of production. If mode of production is done by state, it is called as socialism. Means regulated industry will be there. State will decide where to produce, when to produce, how to produce. All this, when state decide, it's called socialism. Of course, today no country is 100% socialist. Also, India adopted these values of socialism via constitutional amendment. Indian economy till 1991 to some extent can be called a socialist economy, but after 1991 reforms, LPG reforms, we have moved towards from socialism to mixed economy. Now we can be roughly called as a capitalist country, where there is more FDI. FDI norms have been liberalized, and more deregulation of the industry has happened in case of India. And what is communism? Communism means communism is single party system. Simple, in the simplest of the term, communism means having single party system. In case of China, Communist Party of China, CPC, there is only one member in electoral phase, single member. This is single party system. Single member will be given ticket by the authority of Communist Party of China. Only these member will be allowed to contest election. Unlike in India, where multi-party and multiple candidates will be in electoral fray, in Communist Party of China, in communist regime, there is only single player in the election. So of course it is nominal election, and he will get elected unopposed. So there is no competition among the members. So this is the single party system, and it is communism. And when a country is communist, it is easier for the state to make reforms, because there is no opposition, there is no civil society, there is no any society, no private organization. All these things they have the rights they have very less. All these things make the country give the leaders a free hand to implement the policy and make the rapid progress in their country. So this is one of the benefit of communism. But there are many drawbacks of communism, like private sector is not so viable there. And there is single party system, means competition will not be there, issues will be there, rights will not be there. All these things will be there in communism. So overall, democracy is the best practical form of the governance. So democracy, though it has some short-term limitations, but its benefits are too many. So democracy today is the best practical form of governance. Nature of relationship today: neither war nor peace. We don't have any good relations with China, neither do we have a war type situation with China. Engagement without trust. Trade continues despite political tensions. Border stability linked to broader geopolitical balance. India-China dispute, border dispute. India-China border dispute is legacy of colonial era ambiguities and post 1950 geopolitical shifts. Undemarcated line of actual control spans 3,488 kilometers across different Himalayan terrain and remains the core strategic fault line in bilateral relations. Conceptual analysis. Nature of dispute: no mutually accepted demarcated boundary, only differing perceptions of the LAC. Dispute over three sectors. When you see the map, India has dispute. This is the western sector. This is eastern sector. Western sector means this Ladakh region where Chinese border is there, and this eastern sector means Arunachal Pradesh region and the Sikkim area of India. So this western sector is eastern central sector, where there are countries like Nepal, there Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand comes at that area. This central sector is relatively very peaceful. Eastern sector lately has somehow become disturbed, and western sector is not at all peaceful, and here it is border skirmishes between these two nations. Ladakh region, middle sector Himachal, Uttarakhand, eastern sector Arunachal Pradesh. Western sector means Aksai Chin region. China controls Aksai Chin after that 1962 war with India. China has claimed this region of Aksai Chin. India claims it as part of Ladakh. Strategic importance due to Xinjiang Tibet connectivity. Current example: after the informal summit also, there had been clashes between India and China along the border. One of them was Galwan Valley clashes, deadliest clash since 1967, hand-to-hand combat, casualties on both sides. In order to reduce this tension, both the parties on the side didn't fire on each other. Rather, they were controlling with hands only, without the usage of external weapons like this. These were the issues. This posture of both of the side was due to the due to the reason that they didn't want to escalate the tension to new level. Depsang Plain, ongoing standoff. Demchok, Charding, Nanglung, Nala, face off. All these are very difficult names until and unless you are from this region. This looks very difficult names to pronounce. Massive forward deployment, infrastructure race, road, bridges, airfield. Both of these countries going for the infrastructural push. They are building bridges, roads, airfields also they are making with. Eastern sector Arunachal Pradesh. China rejects the McMahon line, claims Arunachal as South Tibet. Also, China is doing that. China was giving stapled visas to the citizen of Arunachal Pradesh. Also, China was renaming the territories in Arunachal Pradesh. All these actions were taken by China. In retaliation to this, we are also taking steps. One is the construction of the good infrastructure in that area. Second is we are also sending our honorable president, prime minister, to the areas in Arunachal Pradesh. Also, we are very serious and we are pushing for the infrastructure in that area. Middle sector is relatively peaceful. Structural issue, different perception of LAC and petrol points. China incremental salami slices tactic versus India's assertion. Salami slicing tactic. What is this? Salami slicing tactics. Suppose this is a border between China and India. Salami slices mean the members of the armed forces of China will come in the territory of India. In very small, minute areas, they will come. They will say the reason of their forward movement, that they are going to have small post in that area. Very small post, they will say the reason. But if India doesn't object, they will create infrastructure building in that area and they will increase the area of their activity. So in all, they will do things in all small areas, and make incursions in India. So this is called as salami slicing strategy. Salami slicing strategy of China. For this, India is also making asserting India's policy has been very assertive to tackle this Chinese activity. Infrastructural asymmetry, narrowing rapidly, raising friction, strategic competition in Indo-Pacific, China-Pakistan nexus. Also make agreements. We have done all these agreements. Talk military to military level talks. Whenever there is clashes between talk communication is the final solution. Whichever bad solution will be between these two countries, we have to have talks. So talks do happen at commander level talks. Despite talks, disengagement is partial, de-escalation is incomplete. Doklam standoff, which happened in 2017, Doklam standoff was a 73-day military face-off between India and China near India-Bhutan tri-junction. Actually, when we see the map of India, I am not very good at maps or drawing, so please forgive me in this regard. It is just a representative map of India in the northeastern sector. So in Bhutan's area, it's this Doklam plateau is there. Actually, it's a territory of Bhutan only. So China was making infrastructural building in this area, and we have a friendship treaty with Bhutan. So if India is here, it's very narrow passage. Actually in map it is looking very big, but it's very narrow patches which is called as chicken snake. It's India's territory, and it's a very, very important territorial area for India, because it is direct route which connects mainland India with the northeastern India. So it's very important. And if any country like China does infrastructural activity in this Doklam like plateau area, it is not in India's strategic interest. It is not in security of India. So India has to take precautionary measures. India has to take all these measures. So India did it, and China, of course, they have to vacate this place, and tensions reduced. Triggered by China's road construction in disputed Doklam episode, becoming turning point in India-China relations, highlighting assertive Chinese tactics and India's forward defense posture. So this was the Doklam issue. Where is Doklam? Claimed by Bhutan, contested by China. Overlooks Siliguri corridor, chicken snake, India's critical connectivity to northeast. Immediate trigger, China began extending road southward from Doklam. I was saying the same thing. China was doing infrastructural activity in that area, which is in proximity with the chicken snake, which is also called Siliguri corridor. So India had objections in this regard. Positions of the parties. What China was saying, China was claiming the sovereignty over Doklam, argued India violated China's territory, used coercive diplomacy and pressure narratives. What India's position at that Doklam crisis was: acted to protect Bhutan's territorial claim, prevented unilateral status quo changes threatening Siliguri corridor, framed action as defensive and TT consistent. What was the posture of Bhutan? Asserted Doklam as disputed, and they were saying that we should employ the measures of peaceful resolution of dispute, and we have to avoid the escalation of this issue to the next level. They were saying all these things. Course of the standoff: face-to-face deployment without firing. So I was saying that when there is standoff between the countries, both of these countries, especially India, we are a peace-loving country. Our army soldiers were just retaliating without any external use of weapons. With the hands they were retaliating. With all these things India was doing, and it is very good because if we take some assertive steps, it can destabilize the relation and it can escalate the situation to a next level, which is not in benefit of either of these countries. Outcome: Chinese road construction halted. So it was the successful strategy of India that China has to vacate the situation and halt their project which was ongoing on that area. Status quo ante restored. No formal settlement of sovereignty claims. Conclusion: with contemporary context, border dispute has re-entered a high risk phase post 2020. While diplomacy has prevented escalation, normalization is frozen pending restoration of status quo along LAC. Way forward is restore the peace first, clarify the LAC, strengthen deterrence, sustain dialogue, broader balancing partnership. Means if China is doing all these things, we have to have good partnership with the power centers of the world in the form of like Quad. India has to grow economically as well. In order to achieve the economic resilience, we have to invest in technology, we have to do all these things. China's overall policy on India: strategic competition. India seen as rising power, potential rival in Asia. There is fight for the leadership in Asia. Both of these countries are economically stronger. Border pressure. LAC tensions. Doklam 2017. Galwan 2020 as tool of coercive diplomacy. Asymmetric engagement. Balancing position. China counters India's Quad role, deepening ties with Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka. In order to tackle India, China is also having presence in India's backyard. Like China is having good relations with Pakistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka and Maldives. So China is also taking all these steps. So what is China's overall policy on India? One of the policies, sting of pulse policy. Sting of pulse policy actually it is not given by India. Actually for this US defense reports in as China is growing very fast economically, in this scenario USA doesn't want the rise of China, because China's rise will not be in the interest of US. US is tackling, and US sees India as a swing state in order to tackle the rise of China. So India is convincing, USA is convincing India that China is going to build the naval bases in the backyard of India. Like China is going for the development of Gwadar port in Pakistan. China is developing Hambantota in Sri Lanka. China is developing Djibouti port. So in Myanmar also they are going for port connectivity. All these Chinese activities in the backyard of India are not good. China says that they will have civilian use of this port, but what is the guarantee that they are not going to employ this port as a military basis? What is the guarantee in case of conflict with India? So USA is convincing these ideas to India. So let's see what is this network of Chinese commercial and military linked ports around India's periphery. Gwadar port, Hambantota, Kyangpu, Myanmar, Djibouti. Objective: China says secure lane of communication, strategic encirclement of India, potential dual use civil military. China says that they are going to use this as a civilian use, but there is no guarantee that they are not going to employ this port as a military basis. So this is the cause of worry for India. Also BRI project they are launching. They have launched in 2013. Xi Jinping, when he visited to one of the countries in Central Asia, he has announced this project. Belt and Road Initiative is the project where they want to revive their ancient Silk Road, which was connecting China with the countries of Europe and Central Asia. So this is very ambitious project where China is building roads, railways, and big rail network will be there. All these things China is doing. India's objective is that sovereignty concerns, because one of the project CPEC goes through the POK region, occupied Pak occupied Kashmir region of India. So India didn't went at the launch of this project, and India raised concerns regarding this. Second, India's objection is debt trap risk. Sri Lanka example means China is giving debt to all these countries, but this is not sustainable because these countries are not very economically strong, like in case of Asia, Sri Lanka and Pakistan. China is giving debt to these countries, like if they are not able to repay, China will say that it's okay. If you are not going to repay me, it's okay. Just give me this port on lease for 99 years. 99 years. Give me the port on rent. So debt trap, it is worse than debt trap, because if you are giving a project for next 99 years, it is not in your interest, because they will use this port and they will get all the revenue from this port. So this is not sustainable for these countries as well. Neither this is sustainable for Sri Lanka nor for Pakistan. Strategic angles: expand China's political influence and standard setting power. CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, flagship BRI project with the investment of huge investment. It is $60 billion project. It goes from Xinjiang region of China to Gilgit-Baltistan region, which is our region, POK region, Pak occupied region, Gwadar means port in Pakistan. India's concerns are it violates India's sovereignty over Pak, strengthen China-Pakistan strategic nexus. Why India is concerning is that China is directly connecting with the Pakistan, and it is in the upper region of India. If China is doing by giving the reason that they are going to revive their ancient Silk Road, they want to revive their economy, they want to connect them with the countries of Asia and Europe. But what is the guarantee that in case of war-like situation, they are not going to use these roads for military troops mobilization? This is a matter of concern for India. Security dimension: potential PLA access to Arabian Sea. India's answer to China's BRI, string of pearls, CPEC. What India is tackling these issues? First thing is, we straightforwardly rejected the BRI, that we didn't gone for at the time of launch of this project, and India has boycotted this project. India also vehemently opposed the CPEC project as well, and India is taking steps for the neighborhood first policy. We have Gujarat Doctrine. Gujarat Doctrine, it is derived from the name of Mr. Gujarat, who was the Prime Minister of India. So Gujarat Doctrine says that we have to have non-reciprocal relationship with the countries of our neighbor. So India has to help all these neighboring countries without expecting that they will help India. So without any expectation, India has to engage. India has to have very good relation with this neighbor, and they will not feel that India is big brother. India is one of the brothers among these countries. So India will give confidence to these countries in neighborhood, so that India's growth will be peaceful. So India is taking all the steps. After that, there is also policy which has been enacted by Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, which is the Lokist policy. Lokist policy means we have to take steps, like we have to have engagement with the countries of Southeast Asia, all these things that comes in that policy. After that, our Honorable Prime Minister has launched the Act East policy, where it says that we have to go one step ahead and we have to have engagement with the countries of the East, majorly the Southeast Asian countries. Also, strategic security responses by India, LAC infrastructural push. We are building roads, tunnels, advanced landing ground post Galwan. Post Galwan, we have been also doing all these things. Maritime counterbalancing, enhanced naval presence in Indian Ocean region, IOR region. India is pushing for sea lanes of communication. India is increasing in its presence in Indian Ocean region. Also, India is having the military exercises with the naval powers of the world like USA, Germany, France, UK, Japan, Australia. All these things India is doing. Quad engagement. India partners with US, Japan, Australia for free and open Indo-Pacific. Defense partnership. Also, India is going for Limoa, Comcasa, expand India's operational reach. Economic and connectivity alternatives. IMEC, India Middle East European Corridor, announced at G20 Delhi 2023 as BRI alternative. India Middle East Europe Corridor. It is very important. Also, in order to answer the Gwadar development in Pakistan by China, India is going for the development of Chabhar, which is in Iran. So also Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, joint initiative with Japan, development finance. Normative and institutional response, rule-based order. India highlights debt transparency, sovereignty, respect. Also, this India highlights that China is giving debt to all these countries in Asia, which is not in interest of these countries. So India is making these countries aware. Also, at multilateral institutions, India is using the platform of G20, BRICS, SCO to resist the unilateral dominance by China. Voice of Global South, India as alternative development partner. In case of solar panel issues, India has had support from all these countries of the third world, especially Africa. India had made a coalition of this country and argued our demand at WTO, so that India could have a good fight in the issues pertaining in WTO. Like for example, one issue was on solar panel issues, where India was giving subsidies to the chunk of population in India. Also, hard power, accelerate military modernization, border deterrence. Also, India is going for military modernization. One aspect is India is batting for the indigenization of defense equipments. Also, India is importing the recent military weapons like S-400. We have bought 5 units from Russia. We can see that in 2025, when we have clashes with Pakistan, we had used this S-400 as a defense, and India could target Pakistan in very, very good manner. So if we have good military equipments, we can tackle all these countries like in Pakistan and China. Also, we have imported this fighter jets from Japan, fighter jets from France. So all these things India is doing. Regional trust building, offer faster, reliable alternatives to neighbor. Economic statecraft, reduce critical supply chain dependence of China. Maritime leadership, strengthen IOR under Sagar vision. Sagar, security and growth of all in the region vision. Strategic patience. The 2019 speech of Xi Jinping is very important. And what are the core themes of this speech? We will take into account. He said for the support of globalization. After WTO was formed, globalization, China was one of the main beneficiaries of globalization. USA, after the creation of all these institutions and the globalization issue, felt that USA will get benefit, but USA was not that much benefited. Rather, China got hugely benefited from this globalization. So China is betting for the survival of globalization, and at the same time, USA is talking for the retreat from WTO. Multilateralism, uh, free trade. WTO called for reforms at WTO rules while rejecting trade wars. China is going for trade war because China feels that China didn't get any benefit from WTO, so China is going for trade wars. Innovation and development, highlighted technology, digital economy, and connectivity as growth drivers. Strategic messaging behind the speech, soft power projection. China projected itself as a responsible global leader. Counter to US protectionism, China is going for protectionism. USA is going for protectionism. In this scenario, China wants to counter the US stand on this issue. Legitimization of BRI, connectivity presented as win-win cooperation, not strategic dominance. The South-South outreach, way forward. India's strategic clarity, engage China in multilateral forums while rejecting unilateral project. One thing many scholars also tell that what should India do in this situation with China. The thing is that India cannot remain the neutral. This is not in interest of India. What India can do, India has to engage at multilateral institutions with China and contain the unilateral moves by China. Means we have to have our firm stand on the issues where India's interests are important and engage with China wherever it is necessary, because in the era of globalization, if you are not engaging, so you will be losing. So this is the issue. Rule based emphasis, push for transparency, sovereignty, debt sustainability in global connectivity. Narrative counter, promote India led alternatives like IMEC, Sagar, with she's stated principle but grounded in practice. Selective cooperation, climate change, global health, trade reforms where interest converge. India China Informal Summit, Wuhan. Second is Mamallapuram. This Wuhan is a city in China. We have already discussed that informal summits are such a summit where there is no agenda is not set. There is no earlierly set blueprint. The leaders of both of this country will come without any agenda. They will sit, talk, discuss on the issues on a personal ground. In Wuhan, Honorable Prime Minister and Xi Jinping met and discussed. Context, it was post Doklam military standoff. Outcome, strategic communication between armed forces, guidance to militaries to avoid confrontation. These leaders said that we should go. The outcome was that military confrontation reduced. Emphasis on long-term strategic perspective. Birth of Wuhan spirit. Wuhan spirit cultivated between this informal summit. Second was Mamallapuram informal summit. Mamallapuram is a very, very beautiful city in the state of Tamil Nadu. Very beautiful city. You should visit this city. Krishna's ball, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You may be seeing that this is Krishna's. It is a UNESCO recognized site, very beautiful, very prominent site, where our leaders, Honorable Prime Minister and the Chinese President met at Mamallapuram for the informal summit. Theme was civilizational dialogue, people to people ties. People to people ties are very important for the growth of cordial relation between the countries. Trade imbalance was also raised by India. Global governance and multilateralism, means in this age USA is retreating from WTO. USA is going for protectionism. All these things are not in the benefit of either of India or China. So for this cause and also at the WTO issues, both of these countries, there is very high need that they should come together and fight for the common causes at the institutions like WTO. It is the picture photo when there was informal summit at Mamallapuram. Strategic rationale of informal summit, all these crisis management toward personal diplomacy, Asian stability narrative limitations, no binding agreement. Unlike in formal summit, in formal summit leaders will come, sign agreement, all these are formals, binding agreements are there, but in informal summit all this is not documented, decisions are not binding, all these things are there. Decline of the process after Galwan clash in 2020, violent confrontation fundamentally eroded trust. At that time Wuhan spirit was cultivated, but after the Galwan clashes, the informal type of summit had got new setbacks. And second is what the scholars of saying about the India-China relations. There are different scholars. One is C. Rajamon, a prominent scholar who writes on geopolitics between these countries. He says that India-China rivalry is inevitable due to power transition in Asia. Border tensions are symptom, not causes. Core issue is China's refusal to accept India's equal Asian power. Core idea: Asia cannot be stable under Chinese hierarchy. Second is John Mearsheimer, USA citizen and a realist scholar. The name of his book is Tragedy of Great Power Politics, a realist scholar. He sees China as a revisionist power seeking regional hegemony. India will inevitably balance China just as state balance dominant power. Implications for India: strategic partnership, Quad are rational, not provocative. Of course, for the containment of rise of China, India is going for the military partnership in the form of Quad. Wang Zixi is a Chinese scholar, very prominent Chinese geopolitical scholar. China views India as secondary but rising challenge, especially due to US-India proximity. Suggests engagement with India to prevent encirclement, contradiction, engagement rhetoric versus coercive border tensions. Then we have Shiv Shankar Menon. He says that Galwan marked a qualitative shift, breaking past norms of peace without clarity. Normal relations impossible without peace at LAC. He also says that peace is very important first at LAC. Key line: border is now the relationship. Economic interdependence view, Professor Amitabh Mattu. Despite political tensions, trade remains resilient. However, economic ties no longer act as stabilizer. Influence decoupling with selective, not total. Will be selective, not total. These are the views of scholar. For this, I want to tell you that India and China, these are two Asian emerging powers, in Asia. I feel that India has to tackle the rise of China in order to be there, and for this India has to bandwagon with the countries like USA, UK, Japan, Australia. All these things India has to take. Also, India need not to be neutral. India has to engage at the multilateral institutions like Shanghai Cooperation Organization, then WTO. All these multilateral institutions, India has to engage with China. India has to engage with China wherever necessary, and India has to contain China wherever possible, because Chinese rise has never been peaceful. China doesn't believe in the rule of law. All these activities China doesn't believe in, and Chinese rise is not in the interest of India. Also, India has to grow its economy, and India shall be self-reliant. India has to diversify its basket, and India has to take all the steps necessary for its growth. And also, India should do all the steps to get entry into United Nations Security Council, and at the same time, India has to build multilateral institutions where India can do much better, and India should do it. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.